Welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. My name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. I'm an award-winning master-level therapist, and I also have an MBA. I'm the creator of a cognitive restructuring program entitled The Lies That Bind. This show exposes and challenges dysfunctional unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly despite the consequences. This show is streamed live via Facebook and YouTube every Thursday from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, welcome to the Emancipated Mind Show. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Anneshia Freeman. I'm also known as the locksmith because I make keys for locks in the mind. Welcome to episode 5 of my show. During the Emancipated Mind Show, I expose and address the root causes of problems people face in their personal lives and in their professional lives. Problems such as self-sabotage, procrastination, people-pleasing, dysfunctional relationships, perfectionism, addictions, and low self-esteem. Tonight, I'm addressing the behavior of people-pleasing. As I said during the introduction, I have a master's in social work and I have a master's in business administration. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is I have not used any drugs or alcohol in over 22 years. I'm also in recovery from trauma, from childhood and adulthood trauma, and I'm in recovery from dysfunctional relationships. So tonight, I'm going to talk about people pleasing, and I'm going to expose and challenge a dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that's up under the umbrella of people pleasing. Now, whenever you hear me, Anneshia Freeman, use the terms issues, lies, unaddressed issues, and the buttons that people push, whenever you hear me use those terms, as I use them interchangeably, I'm referring to dysfunctional, unconscious beliefs that cause people to engage in self-defeating behaviors repeatedly despite the consequences. So tonight, I'm talking about the dysfunctional unconscious belief. Your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others. Now, here's the belief on one of my cognitive restructuring cards. This is a dysfunctional unconscious belief that is up under the umbrella of people pleasing. So I'm going to start out by talking about how this belief can be programmed into a person's mind during the formative years. That's when the unconscious self-concept is programmed during the formative years. The brain is developed, the mind is programmed. The mind is programmed during those critical foundation years by how a person is treated and by what a person observes. Now, I say usually that's when the mind is programmed because there are exceptions to the rule. The mind will be programmed during the formative years, but the unconscious belief system can be impacted later in life. In fact, that's what I do. It's called cognitive restructuring on the unconscious level. So if you're just tuning in, I'm talking about people pleasing tonight, that dysfunctional behavior that costs people a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy. And I'm also going to talk about how the people pleasing belief can also cause people to end up in jail or end up in toxic relationships, dysfunctional relationships for decades. So I'm going to start by talking about how this belief that's under the umbrella of people pleasing can be programmed into a child's mind during the formative years. If a child is raised in an environment in which he or she is not properly validated, then the child grows up looking for external validation. So this belief, it's a little complex to challenge because there's some beliefs that are real easy to challenge. Let's say a person has been programmed with the unconscious belief, you have to accept abuse without question. That's real easy to challenge. Say someone was programmed with the belief you have to assume the responsibilities of others. That's very easy to challenge. But there are some beliefs that are a little more complex. For example, the belief you're at the mercy of other people's decisions. In childhood, that belief was true. Children are at the mercy of other people's decisions. But as they mature, as they grow, then that belief has to be set from true to false in their unconscious belief system, meaning that as a child grows into their teenage years or even before then that belief should be reset to you're at the mercy of your own decisions. And it's usually done by helping the child understand logical consequences. But this belief is complex too, because during the formative years, that's when your unconscious self-concept is programmed, and it's programmed by how you're treated and what you observe. So a child's sense of worth and value is being instilled. It should be a good sense of self-worth and value should be instilled by being treated properly by parents and siblings and extended family members, babysitters, other people. And if that happens, then the child will internalize the belief that, hey, I have worth and value as a person. So when they start going out into society, if they encounter people who mistreat them, they will have this pre-existing sense of value, and they won't feel like they need so much external validation. But if a child is raised in an environment in which there was no real sense of worth and value instilled into the child, then this belief system, your worth and value, is dependent upon the approval of others, can be installed. Another way this belief can be implanted into a child's mind is by the child observing others being treated with value, treated as if they're valuable. If they witness other people being treated well while they're being mistreated, then this belief can be programmed into the child's mind. If the child is only shown appreciation or treated as if they're valuable when they perform well or give someone something or do something for someone, then the belief can also be instilled. Now, that type of maltreatment can instill a lot of other beliefs, such as you have to compensate for your presence with goods and services, and people are only tolerating you. But it also can instill this belief: your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others. This is a lie. This is a dysfunctional unconscious belief, and it manifests itself in people's adult lives as people pleasing. Another way that this belief can be instilled into a child's mind is by being bullied at school by a group of kids who treat other kids that they like or that they approve of well. And so the child is also being programmed to believe that their goal in life should be to try to win approval from others, and that if other people don't act like they like them, then they don't have any value. Remember, these beliefs are unconscious. A person who's afflicted by this belief, they wouldn't walk into a room and say, hello, I believe that my worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others. I seek external validation, and if I don't get it, I don't feel good about myself. A person wouldn't say that, not unless they've been in some type of therapy where they were introduced to the unconscious mind and how it operates. But this belief causes people to make a lot of bad decisions. And I'm getting ready to talk about some of those decisions now. Remember, we're talking about people pleasing, which is a behavior, but this is a belief that supports the behavior. So if there's been no intervention, if no one has helped the child and the child didn't get a chance to go through therapy for being mistreated, then the belief will follow the person into their adult life. So here's some examples of a person operating out of this belief. Your worth and value as a person is dependent on the approval of others. This belief can make people give other people things and do things for people that they don't really want to do. And guess why they're doing it? Guess why they're doing it? For a nod of approval. For someone to be like, See, this was a belief I had to heal from. I remember obeying this belief in active addiction. Now, I was addicted to drugs for years. I'm in recovery. I have over 22 years clean. But in active addiction, I can remember being out there on the streets. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and that's where I was in active addiction. I can remember being out in the streets of Detroit, out there getting money, hustling so I could go purchase some drugs. I believe that I was just as addicted to the approval that I received from the drug dealers when I came in with my money than I was I was just as addicted to that nod of approval as I was to the drugs. Because when I would come in after being out there in sometimes sub-zero weather, I'm freezing. Sometimes my hands would be like this and I could hardly get the money out. When I got the money out and the drug dealer would be like, that's my girl. She be out there getting that money. Didn't I tell you she was a hustler, y'all? I was just as addicted to that nod of approval. I only felt valuable when I was being acknowledged for doing something or giving someone something. That's people pleasing at its finest, or its worst, because it's a self-defeating behavior. So another example of someone operating out of this belief is someone not speaking up. Yes, sometimes a person needs to challenge what's going on. They need to set a boundary with someone. But this belief under the umbrella of people pleasing can cause a person not to say something. That's a form of people pleasing. They don't want to challenge what's going on because they don't want someone to get upset. Someone may disapprove of what they say, but they need to speak up so that they can be safe or to protect someone that they're responsible for. But that's how powerful these dysfunctional unconscious beliefs are. A person can go on mute to try to people please others. Another way that this dysfunctional unconscious belief under the umbrella of people pleasing can affect people is it can cause people to engage in criminal activity. Now, I've been in the counseling field for a little over 20 years. In the first 12 years of my career, I primarily worked with court mandated people. I work with other populations, but the primary group of people that I worked with were court mandated people, my youth program and my adult program. So I worked with people who had criminal charges. And a lot of times when we unpack what they did and why they did it, this dysfunctional unconscious belief, this little culprit was laying down there at the foundation of their decision, right? Because there are people, and I also watched the first 48 show a lot and Code the Belief System, but I have real life experience with people who have engaged in criminal activity because they were seeking approval. They were seeking approval from the people that they were interacting with. And when I did my youth program, for years. I now train other people to do my adult and youth program. I've manualized both of them. This is the youth program manual, but because I'm going to read an excerpt from it shortly. But one of the groups that is in my program for youth is a whole group that dismantles this belief, because there's so many young people setting themselves up for failure, putting themselves in situations that's going to affect them negatively the rest of their lives because of this people-pleasing belief. So when I consulted with Michigan Youth Challenge Academy in Battle Creek, Michigan for 4 years. It's a quasi-military program that works with 150 youth for 22 weeks, twice a year. It's a quasi-military residential program. And so I consulted with them for 4 years. And that's when I manualized my youth program and I trained other people now. And one of the groups that I did up there with those kids was the group where we deconstructed this people-pleasing behavior, this belief that causes people-pleasing behavior. And I had the kids, all of them were between the ages of 16 and 18. That's the criteria. They have to be between the ages of 16 and 18 to be in the program. They would come up to me afterwards. They'd be like, Miss Freeman, thank you for putting words to what I struggled with. Because they didn't understand why they kept getting in trouble. Because a lot of these kids were high risk. They were already getting in trouble. And so they were like, I didn't understand why I kept doing that, why I kept doing things I know I shouldn't be doing, and why I kept getting in trouble. It was because they believed that in order to have worth and value, they had to have the approval of their peers. And in a lot of cases, the approval was costing them. They were getting in trouble. Just like the belief you have to prove yourself to others. Those were the two beliefs. We deconstructed 20 real problematic beliefs for these kids while they were up there when they were using my program. But the belief you have to prove yourself to others, and the belief your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others, got so many of those kids in trouble. And a lot of them, they would tell me stories about some of their peers back at home who were in a lot of trouble because of the belief that made them engage in people-pleasing behaviors seeking validation. So let's talk about that first 48 show. That, for people who's not familiar with that show, it's a crime show that chronicles real cases for the first 28 hours when investigators are trying to figure out what happened, these homicide investigators. And a lot of the people on there are young people who eventually get caught and get arrested, and they get time. Some of them get life in prison. And when they find out, a lot of times when they have these people in the room and they, they're talking to them and they're asking them, like, why did you do that? Because some of them get caught on camera. I'm like, they doing crimes, and this camera on this building. It's a camera on this building. People got doorbell cameras. So all of these cameras, right? They've caught these people committing crimes on camera. One young man on one episode, when they had him sitting there, he was crying. He wasn't really about that life. He wasn't no gangster for real, right? He just got caught up in a situation where he shot somebody. And he shot somebody. I believe that this belief was one of them, because I watched the way the whole thing played out, from the guy picking him up, handing him the gun, talking about, here, man, hold this. Now, why would you get in the car with somebody who say they got beef with somebody and they getting ready to ride down on them? Now, you don't have anything to do with this beef that he got with this guy he getting ready to ride down on. In fact, why did he pick you up? That should have been his question. But these unconscious beliefs, they're so powerful. People obey their directives without realizing what's going on. So he done got in the car with this guy, and this guy done drove over to the library where he heard this other guy was at that he had beef with, and the guy was coming out the library. Now, it's a big giant camera all up there on the wall, and neither one of them paid attention to the camera. So the guy who was driving jump out the car, run all up on the guy, get all in his face. And the guy, come back at him, right? So this other guy that he done gave the gun to, now you get in the car, he may hold his gun. Your worth and value as a person is dependent on the approval of others. Because why wouldn't he just say, man, what you mean hold this gun? My name is Wes. I ain't in this mess. In fact, I'm going back in the house. Why did you even come pick me up? If you got beef with him, go handle your beef. Why you had to be? He didn't say any of that. He just trying to, he just trying to be accepted, and he wasn't really about that life. He wasn't gangster for real. And so these two guys arguing, he get out the car standing there, but he got the gun, remember? And so the guy who picked him up looked at him and said, shoot that so-and-so. So-and-so is a curse word, right? Shoot that so-and-so. And do you know this guy did it? And when the detectives had him, because they caught it all on camera. When the detectives had him sitting up in the room, right? They were like, man, why did you shoot that guy? Why did you shoot him? And he was like, the guy was crying. This is a young guy. I don't remember his age, but I don't think he was no more than about 18, 17, 18, 19, something like that. The young guy was like, man, I don't know why I did that. He said, I didn't even know that guy. I didn't have no beef with him. I don't even know why I shot him. But that guy getting ready to do some double-digit time. And, when the show ends, they show the person that they arrested walking to the elevator in handcuffs, and they put the little words on the screen that say how much time that the person got. He got more time than the guy who picked him up and gave him the gun. So, and let me tell you why. Noted experts in the fields of neuroscience and psychology say when these types of beliefs get triggered, or activated. They put a person's brain in alarm mode. When the brain is in alarm mode, the thinking brain shuts down. And so in the alarm mode, the brain goes into fight, flight, freeze. And so he went into freeze, fight. And so, but the thinking brain shuts down temporarily when the brain is in alarm mode. So this guy that he was with them pushed the buttons. That's a series I'm getting ready to do, an 8-week series on Saturday. The reprogramming the buttons people push. He done pushed the people pleasing button. And up under the people pleasing button, there's all sorts of dysfunctional unconscious beliefs. This is just one of them. I can think of 10 of them off the top of my head that was up under the people pleasing button that made that young man get double-digit time in the penitentiary. And now that his brain came out of alarm mode and his thinking brain is engaged, he was like, I don't know why I did that. He's probably sitting in prison right now thinking of 75 ways that he could have handled that situation differently. And that's why I'm making my life work to help people understand this, because that's a shame. That's a shame. He should not be in a penitentiary, because if he had awareness, and I'm gonna read dysfunctional belief, how to deactivate and reprogram that belief. If he believed the functional belief, when that guy pulled up on him saying, man, let's ride down on this guy. First of all, he probably wouldn't have gotten in the car. You'd be like, well, I'm gonna leave my house and go ride. If you got a beef with somebody, go handle it. It went back in the house. But let's just say he wanted some entertainment, right? So he got in the car. If he didn't have his dysfunctional belief when he got in the car, soon as the guy said, hold this gun, he would have been like, what? Hold this gun? Man, you hold a gun. Like, why you want me to hold a gun? I don't have no problem with this person. I don't have no beef with this person. I'm not doing that. So, but this unconscious belief put people's brain in fight, flight, freeze mode. So another way this belief, your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others, can affect a person in their adult life. It can cause a person to make a career choice that is not in alignment with what they really want to do or their giftings and callings. But they'll make that decision seeking approval from their parents or from other people who say, oh, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer, you should be this. Now, there are some people who are called to be doctors and lawyers and all of those sorts of careers. They have a gifting. They enjoy that particular field. They enjoy even the requirements, the cultivation, the education process to do. But there's some people who want to do other things, but they make a career decision based on trying to win approval. And they end up miserable, working in a career for decades that they're miserable about, trying to please other people. They miserable, but they get this nod of approval from other people. Now that's a powerful belief, isn't it? That can make people sacrifice decades of their happiness so somebody can nod in approval. That's powerful. That's why it's so important to fight these beliefs. You have to become aware of them first, because remember, they live in people's unconscious mind. Another way this people-pleasing belief can affect people is it can cause people to buy things they don't want to buy, seeking approval from perfect strangers. And let me give you some examples. So, one example. So I'll give you two. So one year I was out of town, me and some of the young ladies that I mentor some people outside of being a therapist and a life coach. I do mentor some people. A lot of them are first generation college students. And so me and my mentees, we were out of town at a convention and we went to a shopping mall. It was right across the street from where we were staying for the convention. So we decided to go, check out some, their clothing and buy a couple outfits. So when we were leaving the store, walking through the mall to get to the parking lot to leave, they had a kiosk right outside the store from a photography studio. And so they were trying to get people to sign up and pay for these packages, these discounted photography packages in advance, and then go to their studio later, and to get the pictures taken. So the people that they have, trying to flag you down, they tried to stop me and one of the young ladies that was with me. And we were both like, no, thank you, no, thank you. We're not interested. We don't even live in this city, right? So we kept going. And so by the time we was almost to the door to go to the parking lot, we noticed that the other young lady that came with us wasn't there. So we were like, where is she at? So we backtracked, and she at the kiosk filling out the form, getting ready to hand these people some money. And we went over. We both went over, but I went over and I stopped her. I looked at the people from the photography studio. I said, she doesn't want to purchase a package. I said, we don't even live here. We don't even live in this city. It would have been more expensive for her to come back, to drive 2 hours back to that city to get those pictures taken than it would be for her to buy her a package in the city where we lived at. And she do it all like this. And we laughed. And the reason we could laugh, and that we weren't making fun of her, but we laughed at her because she'd been through my program. I don't mention people who ain't been through my program because that's too much work. Because I don't mention people who haven't been through my program the lies that bad, because I give them all their unconscious dysfunctional belief on 4.5 by 6.5 cars, so that when I'm mentoring them, I can challenge the beliefs. I don't have to keep talking about the same behaviors over and over and over and over and over and over that they're struggling with. I can help people understand the beliefs that are up under the umbrella of the self-defeating behavior that they keep engaging in. And so anyway, we laughed when we got in the car, and she was able to identify herself. Hey, I made that decision because of this belief. So the belief, your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others, can make a person spend money that they don't really want to spend because they're looking for validation from perfect strangers. And like she did that particular salesperson. I'll give you another example where I didn't give in to that belief because I didn't struggle with this particular belief. But I had bought a car. It was my second car from this particular dealership. And it's a good car. They sell good cars. They sell really good cars. And that's why I bought two from them. So I have just paid off one car. It was a $22,000 car. I had just paid it off, and I could have drove that car for a long time because it was a good car. And I could have drove it for a long time. But I gave it to my daughter. I let her pay the last little note. That's mostly giving it to her. But because she was going to school, she was working, she was doing what she was supposed to do. So if you're doing what you're supposed to do, I got your back. So I said, well, I'm going to get me another car because I'm going to get this car to my daughter, my middle daughter, because she's doing what she needs to do. So the salesperson, we negotiated everything and paid off the other car. So they had me go to a room where I guess there's a manager who finalizes all the paperwork in the deal, right? It's another $22,000 car. So I guess it's kind of like a big deal. So she kept trying to get me to add stuff to my car, like all these different, already had a warranty and all this other. She kept trying to get me to add stuff to the package for this new car that would have took my car note to like $600. Now the car note was already $400 a month, but she kept trying to, get me to, would you get this to protect your investment? You need to add this. You need to add this. And I said, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. And so she got upset. She started acting upset. She said, well, I need you to sign right here because I want to make sure that it's documented that I offered. This is how she was talking to me. This is the vocal tone and the facial expression, everything. She was like, I'm just sign right here because I don't understand why you don't want to protect your investment. And I looked at her, I said, I'm paying $22,000 for a car. I don't need an extended warranty. I already have a warranty. I said, because if I'm paying $22,000 for a car, it better run right. And I already knew it was going to run right because I had already bought a car from her. But she was trying to use facial expressions and vocal tone and voice inflection to manipulate me into adding something to my already $400 a month car note. I'm already spending $22,000 with you. I just spent $22,000 with you a few years ago buying another car. But she probably is effective with people who purchase cars who have this belief. Your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others. But see, she didn't know who I was. She didn't know what I did for a living. But me and my daughter laughed all the way home. We were mimicking her. That probably wasn't nice, but we laughed because I do groups teaching people how to stand up for themselves. I do group teaching people how other people will try to push their buttons to manipulate and control them. And I teach people how to deactivate those buttons in real time so that they don't obey with the belief. Because if she had been successful in trying to get me to add $200 more a month to my car note, it would have been because she had pushed certain buttons. These dysfunctional, our unconscious beliefs are buttons that people push. The button would have made me agree to that extra $200 a month, not her. The facial expressions, vocal tone, voice inflection, body language, all that was stimuli. That's how people push the button. But it didn't work on me. And it didn't work on me because I don't have this belief. And there was a point in time when I did have it, but I worked through it. I reprogrammed. So now my default belief system is the functional belief. So people can, push, they can send stimuli, but they're going to hit a different button. They're going to hit the set boundaries button. They're going to hit the assertive communication button. They're going to hit my worth and value is based on the criteria I allocate, the criteria I define for my value as a person. So I'm going to read the functional belief that challenges this dysfunctional belief that produces people-pleasing behavior. It's nice to have the approval of others, but it's not necessary. Certainly, my value as a person is not contingent on whether or not someone else approves of me. The key word in self-esteem is self. How I feel about myself is the key to how I will live. If I feel good about myself, then I will communicate that message to others through my words and my actions. If I don't like myself and I need others to accept me before I can accept myself, then I will communicate that belief to others through my words and actions. Manipulative individuals will take me up on my offer to try to win their approval and will charge me by the minute for their weak, meaningless validation. Why would I care about the opinion of people who support themselves by manipulating others? What a waste of time and energy. I accept myself. Now, I want to talk about the unique dilemma associated with reprogramming this dysfunctional unconscious belief that produces people pleasing. I'm talking about the belief your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others. Every dysfunctional unconscious belief has a unique dilemma that has to be addressed when a person is going through the process of cognitive restructuring, having their belief system change. And that's why it's important that if you want to have, work with someone to do that on the unconscious level, you need to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, who has extensive training, that's a professional. I'm a master's level therapist. And so I'm going to read an excerpt from my program manual, because as I stated earlier, this dysfunctional belief is one of the beliefs that I've turned into a group in my youth program. We spend the whole group just focusing on this one dysfunctional unconscious belief. So this is my manual. I train other providers now to do the youth program. So in the instructions for the people that I train how to do this group with youth to help the youth get free from this belief, I talk about the unique dilemma that needs to be addressed when a person is attempting to extract this belief out of a person's unconscious mind and reprogram it with the more functional belief that I just read. This belief or lie, I also refer to these dysfunctional beliefs as lies. This lie presents its own unique dilemma. First, during childhood, a person's worth and value is being programmed by how they're being treated. So even though it's not true that a child's worth and value is dependent upon how they're being treated, their unconscious mind doesn't know that. One noted expert in the fields of neuroscience and psychology says children define themselves according to how they are treated. He said children try to live up or down to the labels and expectations others apply to them. Children are ruled by the immediacy of emotions. Children do not analyze or process their experiences in the manner an adult would process similar information. And children do not have well developed language skills. So when a child is being programmed via maltreatment with this belief or this issue, your worth and value as a person is dependent upon the approval of others, a child doesn't have the capacity, if they're being mistreated by a parent or a sibling, the child doesn't have the capacity to say to themselves, you know, my parent really needs to go to some parenting classes. This person is not treating me right. This is not good parenting. And I'm not going to take any of this personally. That kids don't have the ability to do that because their unconscious self-concept is being programmed. So children need approval and validation from people of influence in their lives in order to build their self-esteem. So while an adult who has a healthy belief system knows and understands that a child's value is not based on how the child's parent treats him or her, the child is not able to make that determination. Plus, it's natural to desire the approval of others. A sense of belonging is a human need. Dr. R. Joseph, who's a noted expert in the fields of neuroscience and psychology, says that the need to socialize and interact with others is a need mediated by the limbic system in the brain. And that's on page 313 in his book, The Right Brain and the Unconscious, Discovering the Stranger Within. This is one of my favorite books. Dr. Joseph is one of my favorite experts. He is a neurologist and a psychologist. The man is phenomenal. So in challenging the lie or the belief, your worth and value as a person is dependent on the approval of others, one must do so without insinuating that it is not normal to want to belong and to be accepted. Another dilemma associated with this belief is that one must be careful to not communicate the message that people should not care at all about being appreciated, recognized, and celebrated by others. Those are normal human desires. So when a person is working through this belief that produces people pleasing, they have to understand. So I built it into the back of the functional belief so that people will understand, hey, it's okay to want to be loved and accepted and appreciated and to have a sense of belonging. But your worth and value as a human being is not dependent on whether or not somebody approves of you. Like, as I'm an African-American woman, I know that's shocking information to you. I'm being silly, but I am an African-American woman. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I go to places, I enter buildings or something of an establishment where, they sell either, high class, high end food, or because I eat organic and I'm a vegan, or I go to a nice store where they sell high class clothes. And sometimes I encounter salespeople or customer service representatives that make a decision based on their cognitive distortions about me just because of the color of my skin. It would have to be either because I'm a woman, but I think it's more because of the color of my skin. So I often get this look of disapproval, like, yes, can I help you? And it doesn't bother me. Sometimes I feel silly. I'll be like, yes, you can. Can you tell me where the organic section is? Sometimes I use the same vocal tone. I need to stop acting like that. But the beauty and fun is that I don't have this belief. So I don't believe that my worth and value as a person is dependent on the approval of somebody who's giving me a disapproving facial expression. And I don't have to get mad at that person because I understand there's some cognitive distortions going on in your mind that would make you give a condescending look to a person that you don't know anything about. And I know that they didn't program they didn't put those cognitive distortions in their minds. Society sends a lot of dysfunctional unconscious beliefs into the atmosphere about certain people based on race and gender and socioeconomic class. So it's not even their fault. Now, I don't accept maltreatment and abuse from people because they suffer with cognitive distortions, but I don't take it personally. And I had to do a lot of work to get to that point. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying that it's possible. It is possible to get liberated. This is the Emancipated Mind Show. It is possible to get liberated in your mind where people can't control you with a facial expression, with a vocal tone, with a voice inflection, with a body language. That's too much power for anyone to have. And it's sad. And that's why I work so hard. I really work hard because because it's so sad to watch people. And I've been doing this so long. I've been doing cognitive restructuring for over 20 years. And I've done it so long and I do it so often that I can code beliefs, people's unconscious belief system in real time. So I see it in the news when I'm hearing about certain things that happen. I code the belief systems that were involved. When I'm at the store, I watch a person in front of me afraid to ask the cashier not to put all of their heavy items in one bag. And then the reason I know that they really want to say something because I see the look on their face. They be sitting there like, and I give instructions. It's almost like I have a PowerPoint. When I go up to the register, first of all, I have my own bags, and there's sturdy bags that, those reusable bags. I say, here, I have my own bags. And then sometimes they'll lay my bag on the side. I was like, can you sit the bag up? Because when you lay it on the side and put things in, when you lift it up, the things are going to shift and it may, get things out of whack and cause damage to some of my food. And then I said, let me show you. Like, and if they put too many things, I'm like, no, that's too much in that bag. So let me help you. You know why? Because I don't need the approval. Because some of the customer service people, they're like, oh, no problem. But a lot of them know me by now. They're like, I know how you want your stuff back. But I watch other people who are afraid to speak up about their own personal property because they're afraid. Why wouldn't you say something? Because an unconscious belief tells them if you say something, they may not approve of you saying something. So you got to put yourself at the mercy of somebody's decision to put 12 heavy items in one bag or to put some soup cans on top of your bread. And so these dysfunctional beliefs are powerful. People pleasing is a horrible, self-defeating behavior. And I'm getting ready to end, but I want to make this point. People who struggle with people pleasing, a lot of times they're hurt and angry and resentful at the people that they try to please. But it's not those people that are making the person who struggles with people pleasing engage in those self-defeating behaviors. It's the dysfunctional beliefs that are under the umbrella of people pleasing. So that's all for this episode. This is episode 5 of the Emancipated Mind Show. Join me here every week at the same time for another episode. Next week, we're going to talk about dysfunctional relationships. And so I'm going to put the link to my store page in the comment section, in case you're interested in ordering my workbooks, my card sets, my other workbook, the Unaddressed Issues, Make Your Budget and Your Schedule. And I'm also offering an 8-week online Zoom series for people. It begins the second Saturday of September at 12 o'clock p.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. As I said, it will be online via Zoom. And the name of that series is Reprogramming the Buttons People Push. Now, it's different than the Facebook Live series that I did for 7 weeks by the same name. No, this is going to be an intensive online 2-hour session once a week for 8 weeks, where we will deprogram the self-sabotage button. We will deprogram the people-pleasing button, the procrastination button, those buttons that people push. And by the way, you can push your own buttons. And people who sign up for this 8-week series, you will automatically receive the workbook, my workbook, both card sets, 100 dysfunctional, unconscious, victim-based beliefs, a set of 100 unconscious, villain-based beliefs. And every week, I will send you a work booklet that has exercises that we will do together online for those 2 hours on Zoom that will literally help you deprogram those buttons that people push and reprogram them. So we're going to turn the self-sabotage button into an advance and hold button. We're going to change the people-pleasing button into a set boundaries and assertive communication button. And lastly, I want to tell you about a new Facebook Live series that I'm going to start on Tuesday, September the 6th at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for 30 minutes. And the name of that series is Unaddressed Issues Have Budgets and They Have Schedules. Every unconscious belief, dysfunctional unconscious belief, makes demands on people's time and on their money. And so I'll talk about that during my Facebook Live series. So that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next week. If you happen to come across the replay, feel free to share this replay with other people who you believe may benefit, people who struggle with people-pleasing behaviors. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching the Emancipated Mind Show. Join me every week live on Facebook and YouTube on Thursdays from 7 o'clock p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For more information about my products and services, feel free to visit my website, AnnesiaConsulting.com, or my website, AnnesiaSpeaks.com. I can also be reached via email at afreeman@AnnesiaConsulting.com. I'll see you next week.